Hello and welcome. It is me, Pew, and today I want to talk about good classes to level with. I want to list my top four picks of best class to level or just classes that excel in leveling speed. I will rate them on flexibility, movement, AoE clear, single target, reliance on items, and survivability. And yeah, I'm gonna give you some thoughts on which classes are like what you need for each class to make it actually work. So let's start off with the first class, Occultist. This is number 4 on my list. So we're gonna start at the bottom and work our way up. So Occultist, why is it my number 4 on the list? First of all, it has decent flexibility thanks to Curse of Frailty. You get minus physical resistance, bleed resistance, elemental, vitality, poison, shreds almost all resistances, so you can use this for nearly any build. Defense-wise, it's pretty good, gives you flexibility with gearing, since you get physical resistance and poison resistance, which alleviates quite a bit of pressure on gearing. Um, you can choose the poison route, you can go vitality, you can go bleed, you can go chaos, you can go pets. There's quite a few options you have if you want to level fast. Now, the downside doesn't have a good movement skill, or doesn't have any movement skill at all, actually. So, you kind of have to rely on, well, picking up a movement skill from one of the expansions. Uh, when it comes to AoE and single target, I would say the Occultist excels at AoE. Bloody Pox is amazing for AoE. Drieg's Evil Eye is pretty darn good if you pick up Focus Gaze. Um, the Curse of Frailty itself is an incredible AoE skill in itself. It doesn't do damage, but if you pick up Devotions, uh, you can pick up something like the Huntress, Rend. Rend plus the Curse of Frailty alone will be clearing pretty much the whole screen. So when it comes to AoE clear, you could probably level to level 70 purely through Rend and Curse of Frailty and throw in occasional Bloody Pox here and there. However, as great as that AoE is, it does lack single target. Your single target would end up being either Hellhound, maybe Sigil of Consumption, really not that great. Doombolt is a terrible single target skill for actually killing bosses. So yeah, you end up having to either pick a bunch of things and slowly damage over time enemies to death, or well, you have to pick a secondary class, which is what you should be looking for. I'm telling you what the classes excel at, so you know what to pick as a secondary. So if you want to go Cultist, great AoE, decent flexibility, but terrible single target. What about items? I would say the Occultist is not too reliant on items. That's partially because of its flexibility, since depending on your secondary class, you can pretty much use whatever. And since if you want to level fast, you go Curse of Frailty with something like Rend or one of the Vitality Devotions, be it, what is it called? Vendigo's Mark, maybe, or even the lower tier Twin Fangs is pretty good. All of these actually don't require you to itemize much. It's everything is built in. So not too reliant on items. And what about survivability? It's pretty good. It's not the best. The stat gain is terrible. I'm gonna be pretty frank about that. The HP per level is god awful. But you do get Blooded Reek, which is amazing for survivability. Aspect of the Guardian and Blooded Reek itself, both amazing. And if you go for 50 into Occultist, Possession, pretty darn good for survivability as well with the damage absorption. So I would still consider it pretty okay on the higher end. So let's hop into our next character or next class. Well, what's it gonna be? It's the soldier. Uh, Alrighty, so why soldier? Why only number 4? People keep saying soldier's amazing, soldier is so easy to level. First of all, it has no flexibility. If you go for soldier, you are leveling 90% of the time you should be using force wave. Cadence is an amazing skill in the end game, in the later stages of the game, but once as you're leveling, it doesn't have the AoE, so you're gonna be struggling. Uh, Force Wave with Tremor, however, is the way to go. Now, I would say no flexibility, but he makes up with other things, like a movement skill. Blitz is an amazing movement skill. It reduces target's defensive ability, hits in an AoE, hits pretty hard with 1 point, and it's quite spammable at less than 4 second recharge. So that makes you go a lot faster. Uh, Leveling with Force Wave gives you decent AoE. The single target is also going to be decent enough with crit damage, rending enemy defenses with things like Warcry, Blindside from Blitz. So yeah, you're not going to be lacking single target that much. It's not going to excel, but it's going to be decent. It's going to be serviceable. And later on, you also get Olrian's Rage, which amps up your damage even more. So yeah, not really going to be suffering that much. Uh, is it reliant on items? Slightly. You probably want something like this, an Obsidian War Cleaver. The faster you can pick it up, the better. You can get them at level 30 onwards. So that's fairly soon, I'd say. If you get lucky enough, you can maybe get a legendary. You would be looking for one of these, a Stonefist Rebuke. That would be probably the go-to legendary you want to find. Mythical version. Pretty darn good buffs to Force Wave. Makes you level all the way to 100 without an issue at all. Next up is the survivability. It's top tier, it's soldier. You get health, you get probably the highest amount of health per stat point, physique, and health. So yeah, you're gonna be tanky. You have Menhir's Will, just as a safety net. If you don't feel like going Olrian's Rage, maybe you could go with Menhir's Bulwark later on if you want to go one-handed. Field Command, Squad Tactics, all incredible support skills. The whole passive line from Soldier, well, besides shield training if you won't go two-handed, obviously, is pretty darn incredible. Stuff like Fighting Spirit, it's just all around a very good, strong class as a single class. So you don't really have to, how would I say, you don't have to fill any gaps with Soldier. It's just decent all around. But decent all around is not good enough for me. So let's move on to the next class. And that is Demolitionist. Alrighty, so with Demolitionist, I think a lot of people wouldn't place it that high. However, I do think Demolitionist deserves this spot on the number 2. So why? Why did I choose Demolitionist? Well, first of all, let's just remind ourselves what I'm kind of basing this list on. Flexibility and movement skill, AoE clear, single target clear, reliance on items, and survivability. Now, the soldier didn't excel at any of those things. Well, what does the Demolitionist excel at? Flexibility? Not really. It does have some flexibility, but you're pretty much locked into fire damage, more or less. Fire or chaos, if you want to go fire strike. Now, you can level with both things. If you rush for Brimstone, leveling with ranged Fire Strike is actually really, really good. But you have to get to 50 mastery points first before you can pick up Brimstone. So you're most likely going to be leveling with Blackwater Cocktail first. So for flexibility, I can't give it full points because it doesn't deserve it. However, just Blackwater Cocktail itself has reduced targets resistances, which works on most resistances. So that alone is really good. You can stuff that in almost any build. Thermite Mine only does elemental resistance reduction and Ether Chaos later on. So this gives it quite a bit of flexibility again. Stuff like Flame Touch, offensive ability, every build needs it. Same with defensive ability and armor. Blast Shield, it's an incredible survivability skill. So you do have some flexibility. And even stuff like Flashbang, you probably want to max out at least the initial Flashbang for the reduced DA. Vindictive Flame, also a very generic ability. It does fire damage, but you don't care about the damage from it. So what it really boils down to is once you pick Demolitionist, you are locked into mainly fire damage. You can do lightning, but mainly fire. So when it comes to AoE and single target, well, you kind of have both. You excel at AoE, like Blackwater Cocktail is absolutely insane AoE wise. Canister Bomb is pretty okay as well. The new Thermite Mines are fairly decent, but mostly, honestly, Blackwater Cocktail will clear everything. Coupled with a devotion, any of the fire devotions in this corner will pretty much destroy everything. Meteor Shower, you definitely want Eldritch Fire, all of that stuff is great with Blackwater Cocktail. So yeah, you will have the AoE clear. When it comes to single target, you will suffer a little bit, but because you have so much resistance reduction, you have good damage over time abilities, which means you can easily just chuck everything on a boss and walk around him. So maximum AoE, serviceable single target. Survivability wise, I give it an okay. It's not a soldier. It's got decent stat gain. It's above average compared to a cultist. It's still slightly below the 5 physique, 28 health of a soldier per point. So it's pretty decent stat wise. Blast Shield alone gives it a okay survivability mark. You get some defensive ability, which is great. Good ability, flashbang to help you survive. Same for Vindictive Flame. All around decent abilities, but the only ability that really stands out would be Blast Shield, and that one is like insane. So I give it an okay on the survivability. All in all, amazing class to level with, really fast, and if you get good weapons, you can easily switch into Fire Strike and just mow everything down. And now, to the number one spot. Who was it? Well, if you were observant, you already saw one of the abilities in my browser. It is the Oathkeeper. Now, why Oathkeeper? Why Oathkeeper indeed? Well, Oathkeeper because it is legitimately the best leveling class I have ever played. And I'm not saying that lightly. Oathkeeper is the fastest leveling character I've ever made without picking even a secondary class. If I rate it on flexibility, I give it maximum points. Why? A lot of his skills have conversion built into the skills themselves. You can go fire to acid, again, fire to acid, physical to vitality. So you can go vitality, fire, physical, acid. You have quite the spread of what's possible. You can go lightning with Eye of Reckoning even, if you so desire. So when it comes to that, Oathkeeper is absolutely insane on flexibility. The second uh, point, the movement skill. I think this is the only class where I would give it maximum points on movement skill. Why? Because your movement skill is your leveling skill. So let's lock the limits and let's see. Vire's Might is going to be the leveling skill. And at 3.6 second skill recharge, it's faster recharge than the good movement skill of a soldier. And on top of that, it deals damage in an AoE, and you actually get more skill recharge. Why Vire's Might? Because of this thing, Zerthuzon's Archive. You can get it as fast as level 20, and it gives you another 0.5 second skill recharge, and it buffs up your damage even more. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. You grab an archive and you start zooming around with Vire's Might. Honestly, that's all you need. Until you hit Vire's Might, or until you get Vire's Might strong enough to zoom alone with that thing, grab a couple of points in Ages of Menhir, use a shield to kill things, and once you get an archive, drop the points. Easy as that. There's nothing better than killing things while moving forward. Now, what would be the next thing? Considering it has best points in movement, AoE clear. Well, conveniently, Vire's Might is an AoE skill. Great. So it doesn't cover the whole screen like something from Occultist would, but everywhere you're gonna be going, everything is gonna be dying behind you. So again, I would give it at least 4 out of 5 points if we have to use a point system. Summon Guardian of Empyrean, since you're gonna be having 2 of these mad lads, they're also AoE. They will also run around and clear out the trash that you might have left behind. So again, 4 out of 5, at least 4 out of 5. What about single target? Well, that's where you suffer a little bit if you go full Vire's Might and ignore everything else. But again, you have Guardians of Empyrean. They reduce fire resistance, you deal a lot of fire damage, they deal fire damage, you go to the Devotion Tree and grab Eldritch Fire. Put it on Vire's Might, amazing. What about the Guardians of Empyrean? Well, put on Flame Torrent on them. Fire damage, burn damage, skill triggers often enough. It's, for leveling, it's absolutely amazing for Oathkeeper. It's not great endgame, but while you're leveling for Guardians of Empyrean, they trigger it all the time. So again, your single target is gonna be at least 4 out of 5, if not 5 out of 5. I doubt it can compare to maybe the Demolitionist, but it's really up there. Reliance on items. You need 1 book. Doesn't matter if it rolls good, doesn't matter if it rolls bad. All you need is 1 book. Once you get this item, that's all you need. Everything else can be used for resistances, a little bit of elemental or fire damage. Nothing is required, really. You scale off of % fire damage in this case, which means you don't need a good base weapon. All you need is anything that boosts your damage a bit. Again, almost no reliance on items. Survivability, it's pretty okay. You're Oathkeeper, you get Presence of Virtue. Your stat gain is fairly decent. Let's actually check how decent it actually is. There we go. So yeah, it's almost soldier tier. 5 physique, same as soldier, 25 health, more than Demolitionist. I would call that darn good survivability. And on top of that, you do get Presence of Virtue. You will lose out some of its effect by not having a shield, since you'll be using a book to level, but you still get extra health, extra healing effects, and some good stuff like damage, reflection reduction, and all of that jazz. You also get Ascension, great skill, both for offenses and defense, damage absorption, do not underestimate it. The skill has been nerfed a little bit, so now you cannot have like permanent uptime with nearly no investment. It is a 50% uptime ability most of the time. You use it whenever you fight something scary, and everything dies anyway. You can also use Judgment. I would actually suggest using Judgment with Heart of Wrath. It deals a decent chunk of fire and burn damage. With just Judgment as well, you are going to be reducing the enemy defensive ability. So using Virus Might to move through the enemies, popping a Judgment, and then moving forward with another Virus Might generally kills most of the things. And whatever didn't die gets beat up by Guardians of Empyrean. His ultimate abilities, both of them are good. Neither of them are exceptional for leveling. You'd probably use Divine Mandate. However, you could also use Path of the Tree 3 to use some extra cooldown reduction. But I would honestly go with just a couple points in Divine Mandate for damage, because I don't think you need anything else. So yeah, this is why I would consider this bad boy the fastest leveling class, or just generally the best class to level with. If you don't agree with me, please do tell me why, or why not. I do think I've explained all of my thoughts on these 4 classes fairly properly, and hopefully if you're choosing a new character to level, this could help you which one to pick, or just if you have an idea for a character, maybe this will kind of show you what certain classes lack and make you level faster. That's going to be it from me. Pew out and have a good day.